Youth in higher education or adolescent in higher education. In fact, I'm going to be very specific when I use the word adolescence in higher education because South Africa is different. South Africa is different. I was in Zimbabwe and I was with the Minister of Higher Education. We're establishing HEAIDS now in Mozambique and in Zimbabwe. And in Zimbabwe it's different, compared to South Africa. In South Africa, at the age of 15, you can join a TVET college, which is too young. An unbound freedom out of your home in a rural town, a township, you can. So we deal with 15 to 18s joining in adolescence, very early adolescence, joining TVET colleges. And the normal youth that joins at the age of 18 which is also late adolescence, joining the university sector. I have certain slides which I wanted to show you. Look at the world, how God has given us the world. And look at Africa, just concentrate on Africa. Let's talk about infant mortality. This is when a young child dies before the age of 1 year. An infant dies before the age of 1 year. Look at how Africa swells and how the world changes. This is where the burden of the disease is. Look at HIV. Look at how Africa changes and look at how the world changes. Look at malaria. Look at TB. But let me compare it to my part of the world. Look at education, primary education. Look how the world has started becoming what it needs to be, and look what Africa has gone through. Look at secondary education. And I'm going to talk about tertiary education. And then I'm going to talk about science research. And then I'm going to talk about new patents. What am I trying to indicate? A strong education sector, an absolutely strong tertiary education system is what Africa needs immediately, if it needs to come out. I'm sorry, I have other people in the world. I'm an African, but I need to be proud of what I am. But I need to also confront the challenges in Africa. And we need to fix Africa together. Now, why higher education for me? I have a population that goes and makes the 92% of the formal workforce of South Africa. Every year, 2 million young people join higher education and leave higher education to join the formal workforce. Miners, electricians, plumbers, right from a scientist, engineers, Dr. Baker, professors, and also menial jobs like fishery industry. The waiters you see outside, every formal skilled workforce comes from a higher education, either from a vocational college, a community college, or a university. Schools do not give you skills. A job employment needs skills. And that's how skills are. Now, the other important factor is, in South Africa or in Africa, somebody, have you heard of this terminology called black tax? It's a tax that we, as a black person, you have to pay. Like, I'm an Indian man. As soon as I kept qualifying, my mother said, oh, look after your brother's child now, or look after your sister's child. That's the terminology called black tax. Who pays the black tax? This 92% formal workforce. And if they are going to perish, or if they are going to die, and they are not going to pay, the biggest dividend of every university or a TVET college or an alumni of University of Cape Town is if UCT can produce the next 30 years of a healthy employment workforce for South Africa. Because he or she will then go and earn a living for not only the economy of this country, but also pay what we call as a black tax for his own children's education, parents, brothers' children education, sisters' education children. Now what will happen? The next generation will get educated. The next generation will come out of the shacks and move into a flat, maybe a small apartment. Then the third generation into the apartment. Where our biggest challenge is poverty, it will slowly and slowly start coming out. So the concentration of African government, the concentration of the scientists, the esteemed people who are here, is, and I'm asking you to protect youth, specifically also in this sector. Now this sector also has the power. Remember, when I give money to my brother's child or sister's child, I always tell them, I'll give you money if I get my returns. I want you to do X, Y, and Z. And they listen to me. Can we use them? And my presentation is more about showing a model that it worked for South Africa when we focused on this kind of population, which is youth. So my returns on investment is if I can produce the next 30 years of healthy workforce for South Africa. And that is our youth. But that's not happening. Why is it not happening? 41% of our youth involved in multiple partnerships. A country with 8 million South Africans, living with HIV and an epidemic which is very centered to adolescents and youth, this is risky. 14% documented transactional sex in higher education. The undocumented, the qualitative data shows as high as 30%. I was in Zimbabwe, University of Zimbabwe, 70%. Poverty drives transactional sex. I want to show you why. Look at this data. 28.6%. Everybody thinks higher education is either a UCT or a WITS. But let me show you the real data of higher education in TVET colleges only. 28.6% of our students come from households with no food and clothes. Add another 43.8%. They might have food and clothes, but they're short of many things like a sanitary pad. That's 73% of the population. Add another 23.2 over it. They do not have basic things like buying a book, data, or things that are required in higher education institutions. Only 4.4% of the population enjoys. That's a mismatch. That's where the young girls get preyed on by transactional sex. That's where intergenerational sex comes. A hope is given, why to stay in a shack tonight? I'll give you a flat. But the question is, can that girl survive in the shack for next 2 years? But when she graduates, she'll be able to buy the flat. That is the question. That's our fight, and that's our biggest challenge. In universities, the green is 22% and the red is 78%. Slightly different, but still mismatch. 35% of our students abuse alcohol and drugs every month in universities. And that goes very high in TVET colleges, more than 60%. In TVET colleges are in rural or in townships. For example, in Kailicha, we've got 3 campuses. Soweto, we've got 7 campuses. Ladysmith. You go to HEAIDS. You go to any small village town, you'll find a TVET college. That's where the industry is. If BMW is putting a plant in South Africa, it needs automobile workers. They're going to come from a vocational college. And that vocational college is next to a BMW, which is right in East London, deep in rural areas. Another problem, 10% of total rape in South Africa comes from higher education. Sexual violence. That causes HIV. I don't think HIV causes sexual violence causes HIV. And 65%, as per the WHO, of gender-based violence is preceded by alcohol abuse. And if 60% of students abuse drugs and alcohol every month, then we know sexual violence. We're not surprised with this data. The aim is what we need to do with this data. I'm not going to take you through many data. I've got many data on gender-based violence. I'm sorry, this was a presentation I need to do at the Parliament this afternoon itself for gender-based violence. LGBTQI community. We've got about 5 to 8% of students who belong to the LGBTQI community. Over 10% of them get sexually violated. I want to come back to this slide, but my biggest slide was this. Out of all the 2 million South Africans that join higher education, only 50% graduate. Our throughput is 50%. So the economy, that black tax we wanted, is only 50%. But out of the 50% that graduate, only 25% graduate in time, which is a 3-year course or the 2-year course in time. 75%, 5, 7, 8. Why? What are the reasons of why they're not graduating? Poverty? HIV? Parents with HIV? TB? Sexual violence? How can a girl study in the same class when the perpetrator is sitting in the same class? Or in the same residence? Practically impossible. That's a reality. So I'm rushing because I know I've got 15 minutes. So I'm not going to dwell on many epidemics drivers. I've got hundreds of other epidemic drivers that surrounds HIV. But my job was to tell you, what did we do to sort it out? And is there a best practice sitting here? I'm very proud that I'm opening the same practice now in Mozambique, in Zimbabwe, in Botswana, but something that we've been able to show its impact within South Africa. And that's the impact I want to show you. We started a program in 2011 called First Things First. First priority of a South African, young South African, to look after its health and well-being. No HIV word. I was in Malaysia, in the International AIDS Conference, and I found a research from Phuket. They say, in Phuket, they started in high schools and in tertiary spaces by not doing HIV tests through wellness approach. So they did bring clinics inside the institutions and started doing wellness. And automatically they start seeing HIV data going up because they wanted to test young people at early stages. So we introduced that in South Africa in 2011. You saw everything, HIV, TB, STI, blood pressure, sugar, cholesterol. I was questioned by the Minister of Health, why wasting resources on a very young person on blood pressure, sugar, cholesterol? Well, I have below 22 years of age, 10% of the population was found to be hypertensive. Well, that was an incidental finding, though we were aiming HIV. Cancer education, 5 major cancers that affect youth now. Family planning, condom contraception, you name a thing in wellness. Psychosocial support to GBV trauma now. I've not updated this list. Mental, we have 24.5% of our students have suicidal ideation. 15 to 18% of our students have severe to moderate depression. 14 to 16% moderate to severe anxiety. So we need to tackle mental health also with the same issue. We started with just 23 campuses. I had challenges. Some vice chancellors didn't agree. Some senates didn't agree. Some rectors didn't agree in TVET college. Some parent governing bodies didn't agree. There are complexities that we needed to sort out. It started with the movement with just 23 campuses. Look at the movement in 2017. And I'm just trying to inform you that these are number of weeks. We have 40 weeks that we have working weeks in the year. You can imagine 576 weeks and 287 weeks in universities and colleges. These are the weeks where we do youth edu entertainment. We build it like a fair. You know, you go in the fair, you have a site for, we bring this. So one thing we found out, 95% of our students prefer to test peer-to-peer. They don't like to go to the clinic. You build a clinic or the clinic is outside. So the aim was, can we build the clinic inside? I'm fine, 3.15, I'll finish. The aim was to bring the clinic onto the site. It was in my time when I was Chief Director in the Department of Health long time back. I remember Dr. Nelson Mandela, our president, used to emphasize in 97, 98, even in pre-apartheid, my father used to test his blood pressure when a community van used to come or a mobile clinic used to come. So I took that concept and I started engaging to bring mobile services on the sites. And look what started happening. From just 22,000 young people started testing HIV, TB, STIs. This is a very underreported data of 203. This year, I have got about 322,000 already tested for HIV in higher education community. TB, STIs, blood pressure. This is not just HIV. These are data for every element that I showed you on the screen. Peer-to-peer. All I did was I followed this slide. 95% of our students, young people, adolescents said, we don't like to go to the clinic. We'll go to the clinic with the last stage. I brought the clinic to them. That's the exact thing I did. Only 5%. I followed this data and I went this. Right from 130,000 condoms I used to distribute in 2011, 31 million condoms are being distributed now. Why? How? I don't even have money for condom trainers. I've got an army of 600,000 peer educators every year. Just with 2014, just started with 12,000 young students. We needed an army. You can't have mobile clinics coming, but nobody knows what to do with that. You need to mobilize. You have to dialogues, debates, engagement, second curriculum, peer-to-peer. Right from 12,000, 17,000, 199,000. Last year, 593,000. Just from January to June, we're already sitting at 437,000. We're going to have an army of 800,000 foot soldiers. That 800,000 foot soldiers are already condom trainers for me. At this moment, go to any campus of 400 campuses countrywide. So we started with just 23 campuses. The movement went so well. Each and every vice chancellor, senate, council, everyone started believing that today it's spread out to all across South Africa. And now moving across South Africa. But it is only because it's led by a youth. It's led by you. It's youth empowerment. We developed into the curriculum because we needed academics. You cannot win without vice chancellors and academics. 1,700 academics every year become my peers. 425 life orientation and 30. This is first curriculum. And curriculum integration. Because if the academics don't believe you, the young people will get lost in tertiary institutions. And of course, radio program. I was driving on the road, my son was sitting next to me. I wanted to listen to my Minister of Health, but he changed the channel. So I asked him why. He says, no, I'm not interested. And he wants to listen to DJ Fresh. I said, okay, what is DJ Fresh saying? So I listened to DJ Fresh. DJ Fresh was also saying youth empowerment issues, but in a musical and comic way. So I started with an army of one DJ Fresh. to help me build a youth empowerment program through radio, because 83% of our students cannot afford television. They listen to radio, the live campus radio. What's happening there? Youth radio. Today I have an army of 192 radio journalists, every day screening, airing youth programs, HIV, condom, lubricants, talking about LGBTI, women empowerment, gender-based violence. We reach people. So the model is very simple. Last slide. First curriculum, through the curriculum. Peer-to-peer, second curriculum. Dialogues, debates, engagement throughout the year. The army of young people of 800,000 or 600,000 foot soldiers, through radio, whatever they like. They wanted youth-friendly, into the clinic, into the campus. First things first. Every service there. Today, it's spread so well that 3 MECs give me ARVs on the site. NIMART nurses come and give ARVs on the site because students can't leave classes. They can't miss exams. We had problems with adherence. How do we sort out adherence? And that's how we started sorting out adherence. 3 provinces. Today I have a meeting after this with Western Cape to try to work this model out here. If there is a problem, we refer the case back to the clinic. They go to the clinic. They store student card. They get preference. They get their drugs back into the studies. Final aim, 30 years of healthy life. Aim is even HIV positive or not positive, blood pressure or not blood pressure, need 30 years of healthy workforce post-graduation. We can change South Africa, we can transform. 10 girls of Ladysmith was piloted because we put subdermal implant. The girls were removing implants because of oral contraceptives. Ladysmith, 10 educated girls from TVET colleges were asked to go out into the community. In 1 week, we got 222 young girls asking for contraception. Power of an educated South African. Work on the education, work with tertiary institutions, work with the population that's going to give dividends back. This is a dividend returns on investment population. It's left untouched for a very long time. Come and support us. And thank you, Prof, for the invitation.